My stepbrother crossed the line asking me for cash while Mom was in a hospital bed. That still stings. So this happened a few months ago, but it's still burning in my head like it was yesterday. For context, my stepbrother Doug was 27am and I aren't super close. We grew up in the same blended family after my dad married his mom when we were kids. He's always been, well, complicated. He's got this history of money problems, bad spending habits, and constantly leaning on people to bail him out. Now, fast forward. My mom, she's not Douglas's bio mom, but she raised him since he was 10, had to go to the hospital for emergency gallbladder surgery. He's 61, and honestly it was scary. We didn't know how bad it was until they rushed her in. I was there with my sister, Anna 31F, and Dad. We were all stressed, running on coffee and vending machine snacks, waiting hours for updates. Douglas shows up about an hour later. He walks in, all casual, like it's just a normal day. He barely asks about Mom before pulling me aside near the vending machines. I thought maybe he wanted to talk about doctors, visiting hours, something serious. Nope. His exact words were, "Hey, so listen, I'm in a tight spot right now. Can you front me like $500 until next week? I swear I'll pay you back." I was stunned. We were literally in a hospital, waiting to hear if our mom was okay, and this guy was basically using the crisis as a backdrop for his next loan request. I tried to brush it off. "Douglas, this really isn't the time. We're here for Mom." But he pressed harder, lowering his voice like we were conspiring. "Come on, man. Don't make this weird. I know you've got savings. I just need it to cover rent before my landlord gets on my case." My jaw clenched. Anna overheard and stormed over, snapping. "Are you seriously asking for money right now? Mom's in surgery. Douglas, can you not think about anyone but yourself for 5 seconds? Douglas rolled his eyes like we were being dramatic. He muttered something about how family helps family and how Mom would want us to look out for each other. That's when my dad stepped in, clearly exhausted but firm. "Douglas, not here, not now. Sit down and wait like the rest of us." The air was thick after that. He sulked in a corner, scrolling his phone while the rest of us tried to keep calm. I kept thinking this is beyond just being irresponsible. This is a boundary violation. My heart was pounding when the surgeon finally came out to say Mom was stable. Relief washed over me, but it was tainted by this pit in my stomach. Instead of being united as a family, Douglas had turned a hospital crisis into his personal ATM opportunity. And that was only the beginning of the drama. The relief of hearing Mom was stable should have been this moment where everyone exhaled, hugged, maybe even cried a little. Instead, I felt this tension simmering under the surface because of Douglas. He sat slouched in one of those uncomfortable plastic chairs in the waiting room, tapping away on his phone like he hadn't just tried to hit me up for rent money in the middle of a crisis. When Mom was moved into recovery, only 2 of us could go back at a time. Anna and I went first. Mom looked pale, exhausted, but she gave us a weak smile when she saw us. We held her hands, told her she did amazing, reassured her everything was fine now. That's when Douglas barged in behind us, ignoring the 2 visitors rule. He leaned down and hugged her, which was fine, but then God, I still get angry thinking about it. He whispered loud enough for us to hear. "Mom, I'm dealing with some financial stuff right now. Can you help me out when you're back home?" I froze. Anna's face turned beet red. She whispered back furiously, "Are you kidding me right now? She just got out of surgery." Mom looked torn, like she didn't want to make a scene, but also couldn't believe what she was hearing. She gently said, "Douglas, sweetie, not now, please." He sighed, stepped back, and muttered under his breath, "Guess nobody cares if I lose my apartment." I wanted to drag him out of the room right then and there, but Mom squeezed my hand like she was silently begging me not to cause more stress. So we left it, but inside I was boiling. Later in the waiting room, I pulled Douglas aside. I tried to stay calm. "You crossed the line. Asking me was one thing, but asking Mom while she's hooked up to Roman for, what the hell is wrong with you?" He shot back without hesitation. "Don't act like you're perfect. You've always had it easier than me. Dad helps you out, Anna helps you out, but when I ask, suddenly it's a crime. Mom wants to help me. You're just controlling her." That stung because it wasn't true, but it showed me how warped his thinking was. He didn't see boundaries, just opportunities. Dad eventually overheard and stepped between us. He didn't yell, but his voice carried this weight. "Douglas, enough. If you can't respect your mother's recovery, then leave. We're here for her, not your bills." Douglas glared, grabbed his jacket, and stormed out of the hospital like we were the villains. The automatic door swished shut behind him, and for the first time all night, the room felt quieter. Anna just shook her head and whispered, "I don't know how much longer we can keep dealing with him like this." I didn't say it out loud, but I was thinking the same thing. And little did we know, Douglas wasn't done stirring things up because he came back the next day with an even bigger demand. The next morning, Anna and I showed up early to check on Mom. She looked a little better, still groggy but sitting up, sipping water. We brought her some flowers and a crossword book to keep her busy. For the first hour, things felt normal again. Calm. Then Douglas walked in. He had this determined look, like he'd been practicing a speech on the drive over. He didn't even greet Mom properly. Instead, he pulled a chair right up to her bed and said, "Mom, I know yesterday wasn't the best timing, but I really need help. I'm 3 months behind on rent now, and if I don't pay by Friday, I'll get evicted." Anna and I exchanged a what the hell glance. Mom sighed, clearly drained. She tried to respond gently. "Douglas, I just had surgery. I don't have access to my accounts right now. Please let me recover." But he pushed harder. His voice got sharper. "You don't get it. If I'm out on the street, that's on you guys. You've always said each other, and I've had to fight for scraps. I'm not asking for luxury, I just need survival." At that point, I stepped in. "Douglas, you're not going to guilt trip Mom while she's hooked up to machines. If you're in trouble, get a job or figure it out. But this isn't the time or place." He glared at me like I'd just insulted his existence. "Easy for you to say. Mr. Stable Job. Mr. Savings Account. Not everyone has Daddy paying their bills." That comment hit hard because yeah, Dad has helped me out before, mostly with school. But Douglas conveniently forgets that Dad offered him the same help and he blew it on stupid choices. I snapped at him. "You're not the victim, Doug. You're manipulative. There's a difference." Mom looked like she was about to cry. She whispered, "Please, stop fighting." Douglas suddenly leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, and said, "Fine, if nobody wants to help, then I'll just take care of it myself. Don't be surprised if the landlord calls you guys when I can't pay." That line sent chills down my spine because it sounded like a threat. Like he was planning to drag the whole family into his mess whether we liked it or not. Dad arrived halfway through this circus, and you could tell instantly he was done with Douglas's act. He pulled him into the hallway, where he could still hear raised voices. Dad's tone was sharp. "You're not putting this on your mother. If you want money, you earn it. If you're homeless, that's on you, not us." Douglas stormed out again, slamming the door so hard the nurse came over to check on us. I apologized, embarrassed. Mom shook her head weakly and whispered, "He's going to destroy himself, and I don't know if I can watch it happen anymore." That broke me. Because for the first time, Mom admitted out loud what we'd all been thinking. Douglas wasn't just struggling, he was crossing every boundary and pulling us down with him. And sadly, things were about to hit the breaking point. Later that afternoon. We were in Mom's hospital room again. She was finally getting some rest, and I thought maybe, just maybe, we could have a quiet evening. But of course, Douglas had other plans. He showed up and announced again. This time, he had a small envelope in his hand and a smug look, like he was expecting applause for daring to walk back into the lion's den. "Look, I got a little something from a client today," he said, waving the envelope. "It's not much, but it's a start. Thought Mom might want to cover the rest." I froze. "Are you seriously handing her cash while she's recovering from surgery?" Anna jumped in, voice sharp. "Douglas, you've officially lost it. This isn't your playground. She doesn't need your money. She needs Ras." Mom weakly tried to intervene. "Douglas, please, just please, can we not do this right now?" He ignored her, flipping open the envelope. There were a few bills inside, but what really got to me was the attitude behind it. He was trying to make it look like he was helping, when in reality, he was trying to manipulate Mom into giving him more. I slammed my hand on the bedside table, making everyone jump. "No, you do not get to involve Mom in your money drama anymore. You've crossed every line." Douglas stared at me, face hardening. "You think you're better than me. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Mom owes me for everything I've sacrificed." Anne scoffed. "Sacrifice? You mean ran up debts and expected everyone to bail you out? That's not sacrifice, Douglas. That's selfish." Dad appeared in the doorway, looking exhausted but resolute. His voice cut through the tension. "Douglas, enough. You're not using your mother as a bank, and you're not going to guilt anyone into helping you. If you can't respect this family, you need to leave now." Douglas hesitated, like he might argue, but something in Dad's tone finally hit him. He backed away slowly, muttering under his breath about ungrateful family before storming out. This time, the door slammed with a force that shook the wall slightly. Mom let out a shaky breath and sank back into her pillows. I'm so tired of this. I just wanted to get better, not fight with my kids." I felt a mix of relief and guilt. Relief that the confrontation was over, but guilt because I'd never wanted Mom to feel torn like this. Anna put her hand on mine, giving a small, reassuring squeeze. Dad finally sat beside Mom, taking her hand gently. "We'll handle Douglas. Right now, you focus on getting better. That's all that matters." For the first time in hours, the room felt quiet. Mom could finally rest, and I realised how much Douglas had violated our boundaries, not just with money, but with Mom's peace and safety. I knew this wouldn't be the last time we'd have to set firm boundaries with him, but at least in that moment, we'd drawn a line. And sometimes, that's the only way to protect the people you love. After Douglas finally left that day, the tension didn't magically disappear. Mom was resting, but the stress had clearly taken a toll on her. Her nurses commented on how pale she looked and reminded us to limit visitors, which now felt more necessary than ever. Anna and I stayed with Mom for the next few hours, helping her eat and watching over her room and floor. Dad stepped out to make a few calls, probably about bills, insurance, and maybe even Douglas. We all knew he had to figure out how to keep Douglas from causing more chaos. I couldn't stop thinking about the audacity of Douglas's behaviour. The way he used Mom's vulnerability as leverage for his money problems, it was manipulative on a level I hadn't fully realised before. And the scary part? He genuinely believed it was okay. Later, Dad came back with a stern expression. "We need a plan," he said, quietly motioning us to sit. "Douglas isn't just responsible, he's a risk to himself and, frankly, the Mom if we let him manipulate her again." Anne frowned. "So what, are we cutting him off?" Dad nodded. "Boundaries, for starters, no more financial help. He can't come to the hospital unannounced. We'll enforce visiting hours, and if he doesn't respect them, he waits outside until I say he can come in." Mom, who had been dozing lightly, stirred and whispered, "I just want him to get help, but I don't want him to drag everyone down with him." I put my hand over hers. "Mom, you're right. We can care about him without letting him control our lives for yours." That evening, I texted Dub as a clear message. "Listen, Mom needs rest and peace. Their money issues are yours to solve. No more asking her for help. No more unannounced visits. We're serious." It took a while, but he eventually responded, a short, grumbling, "Fine, whatever. Don't act like I owe you anything." I didn't argue. That was the best I could hope for compliance, not gratitude. Over the next week, we implemented the boundaries. Dad handled Douglas's apartment issue separately, setting conditions that didn't involve Mom or any of us. Anna and I stayed by Mom's side, making sure she got meals, walks in the hospital courtyard, and plenty of rest. Mom slowly improved. She even smiled a little more, joking about how hospital food was surprisingly edible. And while the anxiety from Douglas's antics lingered, knowing that he couldn't pull the same manipulative tricks on us or Mom brought a sense of relief. I realised something crucial. Family isn't just about sharing DNA or titles like Stepbrother or Mom. It's about respect and protecting each other. Douglas may never fully understand boundaries, but we can enforce them, and sometimes that's what love looks like. And as Mom's discharge day approached, I felt cautiously optimistic. The crisis had revealed our limits, but it also showed that we could stand together when someone tried to cross them. We weren't just surviving Douglas, we were learning to shield our family from the chaos he brought, without sacrificing our own peace. Mom was finally discharged from the hospital, and it felt like a weight had lifted off all of us. The ride home was quiet, full of mercy with soft conversation and the occasional laugh from Mom as she complained about hospital food. But the tension about Douglas still hung over us like a shadow. A few days later, he showed up at the house. I froze when I saw him walking up the driveway, but Dad was already outside, waiting. The look on Dad's face said it all. He wasn't going to let Douglas storm in like he had in a hospital. Douglas hesitated, clearly trying to gauge whether he could push his way in. "Hey, just checking in on Mom. I wanted to see how she's doing." Dad's voice was firm. "You can check in, but that's it. No money, no drama, no excuses. Mom is resting. If you cross this line, you leave immediately." Douglas's jaw tightened. For a moment I thought he might argue, but he seemed to calculate his next move. Finally he muttered, "Fine, just don't expect me to disappear forever." Mom, sitting on the couch wrapped in a blanket, gave him a weak smile. "Douglas, it's nice to see you, but please just keep it calm." He nodded, awkwardly, and stayed for about 20 minutes, making small talk that felt forced and insincere. Anna and I exchanged glances. We both knew this was the first test of whether he would respect boundaries or try to manipulate again. After he left, Dad turned to us. We can't coddle him anymore. He's got to face consequences for his choices. No more hospital visits, no more cash handouts, and no more emotional manipulation. I agreed. It was painful to admit, but boundaries are sometimes the only way to keep toxic patterns from repeating. Douglas may never change, but we could control how much influence he had over our lives and Mom's recovery. A week later, the fallout continued. Douglas had called Dad multiple times demanding financial advice and loans, but Dad stayed firm. Each rejected call seemed to frustrate him, but it also taught him slowly that he couldn't push us around anymore. Mom, meanwhile, was healing steadily. She confided in me one evening. I feel like a weight has lifted. I love him, but I can't keep letting him run over me. It's exhausting. I hugged her. Mom, you don't have to. That's what family is, protection, not just affection. I realized then that Douglas's behavior, while frustrating and boundary violating, had forced our family to define its limits. We were stronger, more united, and more aware of how to safeguard Mom, our peace, and our finances. Douglas may still be struggling, but we learned an important lesson. Caring for someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you or those you love repeatedly. Sometimes tough love is the only kind that works. And as Mom resumed her daily routines, I felt a cautious optimism. The chaos Douglas brought might never fully disappear, but our family had found a way to survive it together. A few weeks after Mom got home, life slowly started to settle into a more manageable rhythm. She was stronger, walking without assistance, and even laughing again during our family dinners. Anna and I made a conscious effort to shield her from Douglas's antics, and Dad had set firm ground rules for no cash, no unannounced visits, no emotional manipulation. Douglas did call a few times, mostly to complain or vent about his financial struggles. Dad handled it with patience and firmness, refusing to hand over money. I noticed Douglas's tone soften slightly over time, though it was still laced with frustration. He seemed to understand, at least intellectually, that he couldn't bully his way into our lives anymore. One Saturday, he came over, but this time it was different. He knocked politely and didn't try to push past Dad at the door. Mom answered, looking worried but hopeful. Douglas walked in slowly, hands in pockets, and gave a small, genuine smile. Hey, Mom, I just wanted to see you. I've been trying to get my stuff together. Mom nodded cautiously. That's good to hear, Douglas. Just keep it calm, okay? He agreed, and for the first time in months, his visit didn't revolve around money. He stayed for a short while, chatting quietly with Mom and even helping fold laundry. Anna and I kept an eye on him, ready to step in if boundaries were crossed, but he respected them. After he left, Mom turned to us, smiling softly. I feel hopeful. Maybe he's learning. Maybe he can change. I nodded, feeling cautiously optimistic. It wasn't perfect, and we knew setbacks were possible. But the fact that Douglas could visit without turning everything into financial drama felt like a small victory. Dad summarized what we'd all learned over the past few weeks. Family isn't just about blood, it's about respect, boundaries, and protecting each other. Douglas is part of this family, but he's got to learn that respect isn't optional. I realized he was right. Douglas's money problems and boundary violations had tested us, but they also taught us how to stand firm while still showing care. We could love someone without letting them take advantage of us, and it was a powerful lesson. In the end, the hospital incident became a turning point. Mom recovered fully, our family grew stronger in unity, and Douglas started facing the consequences of his actions without dragging us into his mess. We didn't solve all his problems, but we learned how to handle the chaos he brought together. Looking back, I'm proud of how we navigated it. Setting boundaries isn't easy, especially with family, but it can save relationships instead of letting them break apart under pressure. And sometimes, the hardest lessons in life come from the people closest to us. We're still learning, still healing, but for the first time in a long time, it feels like we have a little peace. And that's enough for now.